Welcome to the Flourishing Leader podcast, where we dive into the dynamics of the professional working world. I'm Audrey Simmons.
And I'm Belinda Joseph-Pirame. This podcast is dedicated to inspiring leaders to live a life of well-being, both personally and professionally, so that they too may flourish. Hi Audrey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Belinda?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. And so I'm going to ask you a few questions so that we can get to know you and your work a little bit more. So my first question is, what does Team of Greats do?
Excellent question. So Team of Greats, we partner with leaders and entrepreneurs, professionals around the world as they work through challenges getting in their way of them reaching their goals and really what's keeping them from being their best selves. So coaching provides a confidential space for professionals to talk and reflect, gain insights into their challenges. And that really assists with increasing confidence and improving communication skills. And our clients end up, thriving with grace and fortitude as they achieve their desired outcomes. But we are really dedicated to positioning our clients well for the future. We're dedicated to their resilience. So we provide coaching for individuals, teams, and then we also provide mindfulness courses as well.
Wow, so it sounds like some wonderful work you're doing there.
Yeah, it keeps us busy.
And so what inspired you to focus on leadership, ADHD, and mindfulness in your coaching practice?
So I have been in leadership for over 15 years. So I have the felt lived experience of what it is to lead organizations, large teams, operations, that sort of thing. I know what it's like to be a new leader and a leader with much experience. So moving through those different phases. I also was diagnosed with ADHD later in life. So I have the felt lived experience of that. And to me, what I find inspiring about the leadership piece and the ADHD piece is that, I think, and we'll talk about maybe this a little bit later, but there's seems to be misunderstanding around that you can be a leader and have ADHD, or you can have success and have ADHD. And so having that felt lived experience, I think there's a lot to offer other individuals and just lessons learned from the past. So I would say that. And then as far as mindfulness goes, mindfulness has been a real important part of my life in allowing me to be present in the moment, especially as a leader, to be able to regulate strong emotions in crisis situations, to be able to let go of maybe stories created about other people in service of the team. So mindfulness is incredibly valuable and is part of our foundation of our coaching program and systems, because it allows people to really access, I'll use a word that was used earlier, but access relief and peace, right? Because they're able to know what is going on in the moment and to choose wisely how to respond to that moment appropriately. And that's amazing. And so it's been helpful not only in leadership, the mindfulness, but also with the ADHD, because mindfulness is about creating a pause. It's about noticing when you're not in the present moment. So it's not about not having thoughts. It's about noticing when you're not here. And with ADHD, that's very powerful, right? The ability to slow down and pause. So what inspired me to focus on these things, a lot of it's the felt lived experience of knowing the real challenges that come with being a leader, the backstage, if you will, challenges of being a leader, and the felt experience of having ADHD. So inspired to just support those that are in similar situations that I was in.
Right. I mean, that sounds great. And so can you explain the most common challenges then that your clients face and how coaching helps people to overcome those challenges?
Yeah. A lot of my clients will come with the goal of wanting to get things done. So increasing their productivity. A lot will come because of being concerned about burnout. Like they just have noticed a shift in their, maybe not results quite yet, but there's a shift at home. There's a shift in their enthusiasm or lack thereof, and there's a concern there. So many people come to inside of productivity, the procrastination, time management, how can I improve my focus? And then with leadership skills, it's, learning about leadership skills. Like, how do I communicate effectively? How do I develop creative strategies, structures, and processes that get me the results that I want every time? And then there's also, I hear about imposter syndrome, but those are kind of the main topics that we hear. And then of course ADHD, which is sort of like, kind of sprinkled through all of that. But yeah, and how does coaching help? I think, well, I know coaching is very powerful because it creates a pause in our lives to reflect on what actually is going on. What got us to where we are? How did we get here? What is the next best step to take inside of the challenge that we're facing? And so inside of that pause, clients will talk, and then the coach is able to really listen for themes and maybe different topics that the speaker wouldn't necessarily connect, but the coach can reflect back to the speaker and see if there's a connection that might be helpful to them to identify. And so that's where there's real power there, is that, we're pretty smart at tricking ourselves, right? We're really smart at that. And so having a coach in the same room allows leaders to kind of be called out on when they are fooling themselves. So maybe there's a story around, I don't have any time. And so that story comes up in coaching, and the coach may ask a question like, walk me through your day, or what does the typical morning routine look like for you? And in that process, perhaps the coachee suddenly realizes that, oh yeah, I start my day off with 30 minutes on my cell phone, checking my emails or flipping through social media, let's say. So anyway, it brings people a sense of accountability without really having an audience.
And so what are your qualifications in psychiatric mental health nursing, mindfulness, and operational leadership? And how have they influenced your approach to coaching?
Yeah, so I have a bachelor's of science in nursing from Regis University. I have a master's of science in nursing leadership and education, adult education. I have a master's of business administration, my MBA, board certified in psychiatric mental health nursing, and have a certificate in coaching and as an ADHD provider. What I'm trying to think of what else, which is sort of embarrassing. But so how does this influence my approach to coaching? Nursing has been really valuable and a great foundation to build from for me, because it trained me to assess situations, dynamics, interactions, I think in a more systematic way than perhaps I would have had I not had that. I've had the opportunity to work on inpatient psychiatric units and emergency rooms in hospital settings, both as a nurse on the floor and in leadership. So again, it's the skills that I've learned along the way. And I think with mental health nursing, the biggest skill, if I had to pick one, is the ability to listen and to hear what's being said and what's not being said. With leadership, how that influences my approach, I think clients really appreciate the directness that I can bring to a conversation when needed. And also that I have walked in the shoes that they have walked in. And I think that's really powerful for them to know that, to know that they're heard and seen in a really real way, so to speak. As far as, I guess, mindfulness, I've been coached by Beth Mulligan. So Beth Mulligan is out of California, and she's my mindfulness coach. I've worked with her for a couple of years and have been certified as a facilitator in mindfulness, and am working to be certified as a teacher, but taking my time with that. But yeah. And how does that influence it? I think mindfulness influences my coaching because it just slows it down a little bit, right? We want to slow people down. We want to get the details. So when they're describing a situation, oftentimes there can be some generalizations. And so we like to just, tease that out a little bit, slow it down. And that really is mindfulness informed.
Okay. And so on the topic of mindfulness, then, what role does it play in your coaching approach, and how do you incorporate it into your coaching sessions?
Yeah, so it plays a significant role in, when someone comes to a session and let's say they're upset about something, and we'll just use maybe a general example that everybody can relate to. But let's say you're driving and you get cut off in traffic, right? So your story maybe when you show up in session is like, oh my gosh, this guy was such a jerk and they cut me off and totally ruined my day, and, going on and on. What I want to do is I want to take our client back to that moment where they got upset. Like, when did this other person become a jerk, right? That's the moment we want to go back to. So right before that, what was, let's pause, let's breathe. What was the thought you had right before that, right? Okay, you thought this guy was a jerk. Where did you feel that in your body? What was that feeling that you had in your body? Like, well, it was tension. I felt it in my chest. Okay, were you breathing? I probably was holding my breath. Okay, so if you had to label this feeling, what would you label it? Okay, well, I would label it as anger. Okay, so now you know what your anger looks like. You know how it shows up in your body. You know maybe some thoughts that trigger that. You know the results of it. So knowing that helps, and that oftentimes our body accesses wisdom quicker than our language does in our minds. So what we want to do is we want to cultivate this ability to be able to realize, okay, there's sensations happening in my body. What's going on in this moment? Okay, this is anger showing up. When I get angry, I know I normally respond like this. Using mindfulness, I'm going to pause. I'm going to take a deep breath and take it just a moment to ask myself, what am I feeling right now? What would I label this emotion? The act of that questioning is super powerful because it takes leaders out of being emotionally flooded, and it brings them into this observer role where they're asking themselves questions, which re-engages their brain, their frontal lobe, if you will. And they're able then to get some distance from that situation. So they're able to get distance from the fact that they just got cut off in traffic. and they're able to just breathe it out, kind of get themselves regrounded, refocused on the fact that their goal is really to get to work, not necessarily to correct a poor driver. So it's about slowing situations down long enough so that the client is able to slowly really learn how their body works, different kind of triggers, themes, habits that they have that may be getting in their way.
The Flourishing Leader podcast has two sponsors, Team of Greats, LLC, and Eudaimonic Therapy and Coaching. Our first sponsor, Eudaimonic Therapy and Coaching, provides psychotherapy for people struggling with stress, anxiety, and depression. Also on offer is executive coaching for leaders experiencing stress, burnout, and other well-being issues blocking personal effectiveness. For information or to book a free consultation, please visit www.eudaimonic.co.uk. That's www.eudaimonic.co.uk.
Our second sponsor is Team of Greats. Team of Greats is a coaching company partnering with professionals around the world, including those with ADHD or ADHD-like characteristics, offering individual leadership coaching, team coaching, and mindfulness courses. For more information, reach out to www.teamofgreats, that's GREATS.com, teamofgreats.com.
What are some common misconceptions about ADHD that you encounter in your work?
Yeah, so some common ones are that people with ADHD don't have the capacity to pay attention. There's this idea that they may not be as successful or trustworthy with great projects or big projects because they won't be able to follow through. That these individuals are loud and scattered and chaotic. I think you see that portrayed in the media really frequently. That a client with ADHD doesn't know what to do. You have to tell them what to do. Or that, somebody with ADHD is a selfish individual because they sometimes remember and they sometimes forget. Well, with ADHD, it's not a lack of attention. It's actually we have a lot of attention. It's just knowing how to direct it, where to direct it to, and having some skills in place that and boundaries, quite honestly, that protect you from you, so to speak, right? But this idea too, that if you have ADHD, you're not going to be as successful. I can't tell you how many times when I have let people know I have ADHD, they are like, you have ADHD? Like, you don't have ADHD. So I think that speaks to the fact that there's this idea of what a person with ADHD looks like. And so I think it has to do with people thinking you can't be as successful. And that's wrong. It's not even remotely correct. I think it's like 40% of entrepreneurs have ADHD, and I forget what the going rate of CEOs that have ADHD, but very high functioning individuals have ADHD. It's their creativity really comes from that curiosity that is just relentless in learning and finding solutions to things. And so anyway, those are some of the common, misconceptions. And I say like selfish being a misconception because with ADHD, the felt experience is very different than the external appearance. But oftentimes what can happen is that an individual may, forget to maybe get back to a friend or a family member because they've reprioritized their work. So work people get back to faster than maybe friends and family. And so friends and family can have a hard time with that. But really it can just be, just forgetfulness, or just needing a different strategy to keep those relationships going. But it's not I'm intentionally being selfish and withholding.
What characteristics do you think great leaders exhibit?
I think great leaders exhibit humility, the humility to listen, the humility to understand that you have one of many perspectives, and that if you are a leader, you are not in a hero sport, you are in a team sport. And that requires listening to others and to honor and respect their contributions, because it comes from their backgrounds and their educations and their lived experiences, and all of that's really important. Courage, the courage to speak up, the courage to sit down, the courage to say what's needed to be said, even if it's uncomfortable and even if you're sweating and your voice is trembling, choosing courage over comfort, because that's what leading a team requires. And curiosity, the curiosity is so important as a leader, because to me, it is really the source of your resilience. The moment you think you know it all or have it all figured out, you become the most dangerous person in the room, no doubt about it. So maintaining, choosing curiosity over judgment, asking questions, not in a badgering way, but asking questions with the intent to learn, asking what and how questions are really, really important. And so I've held these characteristics really near and dear to my heart. I've called these the leadership triad, because I just really believe that these are the three things that are required of leaders. I mean, without courage, none of these things are accessible, as Maya Angelou once said.
Wonderful. And what brings you the most joy in working with your clients?
Seeing them be successful, seeing their joy, celebrating with them. Like, there is nothing better. There is nothing better than their success.
Yeah, agreed. And finally, how can listeners learn more about your coaching services and connect with you, Audrey?
There are so many ways. Let me tell you the ways. So you can connect with us on our website at teamofgreats.com. That's Team of Greats, Greats. LinkedIn, we're on LinkedIn. We do monthly presentations on there, 30 minutes. You can check us out there. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. But definitely reach out, shoot us an email, schedule a discovery call. We have mindfulness courses rolling out pretty much every quarter. So you can sign up for that as well. But yeah, that's how you can find out more, connect with us.
Great. Thank you, Audrey.
Yeah, thanks, Belinda. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to the Flourishing Leader podcast. We would love to hear directly from you. Please reach out to us by emailing contact@theflourishingleaderpodcast.com.
As we all know, supporting what you enjoy by taking action matters. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure you subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app and leave us a review.
You can also find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Thank you again for listening in. We look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, take good care of yourself.